at Fuzzy Door,
How
his
did you
company.
pull that off? Did you get to meet
Specifically the
Chef
president of that
McFarlane?
company, who I guess you just sort of trust to run. I have not met him
What?
to make these sorts of decisions, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd be very curious if you saw
I
it.
have no idea if he even knows
saw the
about.
short.
I'm sure
He's a very busy man
now. He knows about the project.
If this thing actually moves ahead to production,
that's
his execs at Fuzzy Door, his company.
Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Specifically the president of that company, who I guess
then
you just sort of trust to run.
Talk about it.
To make these sorts of good, decisions.
Like I don't know.
I don't know. I'd be very curious if he saw it. At least if he saw the short. But he's a very busy man.
The stream is live.
So if this thing actually moves ahead to production, that's I think the point at which he'll actually
let's keep our fingers crossed.
I need to turn on the attendee thing.
Then you'll
so
come
I'll
back
do that.
and
you give me like 5 seconds.
Sounds good.
And then
sounds like a plan.
People who are on Zoom will also be able to see this because they can't see
it. All started here.
All right. Right. So the stream is live. So we are rebroadcasting. Awesome.
Okay. So the only thing
fantastic
I need to do is I need to turn on the attendee thing. So I'll do that. You give me like 5 seconds, and then I'll click it, and then all the people who are on Zoom will also be able to see this because they can't see us right now.
All right. Ready? Welcome everybody. So that was 3D Nebula in Blender demo reel produced by, amongst other people, Gleb Alexandrov and Haiti Burrows. The reason why we're showing it is because it's the splash screen for the version of Blender that we're going to be going through today. Sunil, do you want to kick us off? Welcome everybody. So that was
thank you.
3D Nebula in Blender demo reel.
We have a
produced
really
by,
full schedule today, so I'm not going to talk
Gleb Alexandrov and Haiti Burrows.
Really
the reason why we're showing it is because it's the splash screen for the version of Blender that we're going to be going through today. Sunil, you want to kick us off?
We had like an overwhelming response. It was amazing. Yes, thank you, hard work to put on this event with LA Blend. We have a really full schedule today, so let me just say that when you're posting questions on Zoom, you can direct the questions to the panelists and everyone. And on the YouTube, you can target Los Angeles Blender YouTube. We had like an overwhelming response. So it was amazing. So let's get on with it to put on this event with LA Blend. And
thanks, Sunil.
I should
So
let me just
for those
say
who
that
when
you're
know, this
posting
is a
questions
joined
on
up meeting
Zoom,
between
you
the
can
LA Blender
direct the
user
questions
group
to the
and LA
panelists,
Siggraph.
everyone.
And
And on
groups,
the
have
YouTube,
a lot in
you
common.
can target
Actually, we have
Los
a lot
Angeles
of joint
Blender
members, so we're
YouTube
kind of
account,
excited to
and
do the meeting with them.
highlight the question.
I think
So
maybe what I'll
let's
do
get
is
on with it.
I'll just start
Back to
with,
the story.
what is Blender? Thanks, Sunil. It's possible that for those people that are part of LA Siggraph, for those who don't know, this is a joined up meeting between the LA Blender user group. We also love LA Siggraph, but in the LA Blender user group, we're have a really big on open source software. So Blender joined members, so we're for everybody's benefit meeting with them. It's an open source 3D digital content creation package. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just start with texture editing, shading, because it's possible that animation, people that are part of LA Siggraph maybe using Mac 3D. There's a lot of great 2D stuff, which we also love Blender. But in the LA Blender real time, EV really big on open source software. Path tracing and cycles renderer for everybody. Does compositing, motion tracking, open source 3D digital content creation package. It has a pretty decent video editing, texture editing, shading. rigging
most
animation,
people
that pick up Blender a lot of times are attracted to the fact that it's free. But what really keeps people coming back, it's got both a real-time EV render as well as path tracing. Is that it has a really fantastic does compositing, motion tracking, and all manner of visual effects. Developers, the video, it has a pretty decent video editor, extremely forthcoming with tools, most techniques. People that really pick up Blender a lot of times are attracted to the fact that it's backed by industry. But what really keeps people coming back, logos you see at the bottom of the slide, awesome, are just a few of the bigger. Is that it has a really fantastic financially backing literally developers, providing relationships with the developers as well as money, people in the industry. There's a whole bunch of other smaller studios, tools, techniques, and individuals. Has a really massive ecosystem of add-ons. And it's backed by industry. So I think I'm going to start this actually with a straw poll. See at the bottom of the slide are just a few of the bigger contributors financially backing Blender, providing both. All right, so developers as well as money. What you want to do, I'm going to drop this link into other smaller studios window here. I'd love to see individuals that can be who has used Blender before. So you could use the I'm going to start this actually with a straw poll. Top of this slide, or you could use the URL that we're about to drop into the Zoom chat. So yeah, let us know. So what you want to do, I'm going to drop this link into the window here. I'd love to see. Hey, David, do you see the URL in the Zoom chat? Used Blender before. So you use the URL
you might want to
and the
post
code
that
at the top of this
in
slide.
In
Or you
chat,
can use the
URL
URL that we're about to drop into the Zoom chat. So yeah, let us know.
You might have sent it to one group or the other.
If you've used Blender before. There we go.
Or,
hey, David, do you see the URL in the Zoom chat? So I dropped it. Just, all right, people are running. So I allowed people to
post that
vote
in
more than once, so they could
in
choose
chat.
both,
There's a little thing at the bottom that says to all panelists and attendees.
Gotcha. All right, so we got some newbies. That's good. All right.
This is in millions, right?
There.
Hey, perfect. It's working now.
Yeah. So the downloads of Blender is people are voting. So I allowed people to vote more than once, so they could choose both personal and professional projects. I know Ton actually posts some during the Blender conference. It's pretty impressive. So we got like millions of downloads per month, somewhere in that range.
This is in millions, right?
Google tells me 500,000 times per month.
Yeah, well, the downloads of Blender
5 million less
is in millions, that's for sure. Good thing it's only like 200 megs. Does anybody know the stats? Ton actually posted it during the Blender conference. It's pretty impressive. There's like millions of downloads per month. So it looks like we have a mix of both personal and
Google tells me 500,000 times per month.
Pretty good.
6.5 million last year.
Good thing it's only like 200 megs. The vast majority of you have used Blender, so that's great. Okay, pretty good. I tell you what, let's do just one more poll here. So it looks like we have a mix. What capability of Blender is most useful to professional use here? Modeling and sculpting, animating and rigging, texturing, shading, lighting, rendering, visual effects, compositing, or video. The vast majority of you go ahead and vote again. Use Blender, so that's great. Okay. I tell you what, let's do just one more poll here. Tell us what capability of Blender is most useful to you. So it's really fascinating. We get a mix of people at our Blender user group meetings, shading, lighting, everybody from visual effects, scientists doing data visualization to game developers to coders. There's people that are doing really amazing things in our group with machine language and Blender doing kind of AI driven. It's really fascinating. We get a mix of people at our Blender user group meetings. Everybody from it's really kind of a scientist doing data visualization to game developers. Pretty good mix in here as well. So coders, there's people that are doing really amazing things. Feel free to keep voting. In the interest of time, I'm gonna move on. Blender doing kind of so AI driven modeling and visual effects. So it's really what we like to do in these meetings is talk about what's new in Blender. So this is a pretty good mix in here. Usually I go into kind of what's happened. All right, good to see you. So feel free to keep voting. There's 3 different versions of Blender in development at the moment. There's 2.83.5, which is a long-term support version of Blender for production houses. what we like to do in these meetings is going to talk about what's new in Blender. Next week is 2.90. Usually, I go into kind of what's happened pretty in large number in terms of features. There's three different versions of Blender that's already in development at the moment. So 2.90 is really just in kind of like a long-term support version of fixing Blender mode at the moment for production houses. But there's just been a huge number. The version that is going to be released next week is 2.90 actions. There's enhancements to a pretty and large number of features, and then there's a 2.91 that's really awesome to see. So 2.90 is really just in kind of like a stabilization getting updated, bug fixing mode, lots of good grease pencil updates. But there's just been a huge fluid number of user interface flow, kind of clean up. Actions, there's cycles, enhancements to way faster now, modifiers, some help from both sculpting improvements, Intel on really awesome to see kind of speeds a resolution sculpting, cloth, but also on the lots of good grease pencil updates. So there's been some contributed open image denoising both in viewport, updating that kind of flow renders. Fluid and cloth better support for NVIDIA hardware, way faster memory cooling, which is pretty cool. Help from both to run out of memory on your Intel anymore. On Embry, which and then speeds a lot of we have motion blur and Eevee, which is but also on the great animation rigging. So Intel there's some contributed open image denoising, minor polish to virtual reality for final virtual reality. We find really interesting. Better support for and then NVIDIA hardware. Lots of great kind of memory cooling, which is pretty cool. Not to run out of memory on the GPU. What I'm going to do here is just more than one, and then. We have motion blur and just demo, which is a long time coming. Give me a sec. Great animation rigging. There's some kind of minor polish to virtual reality. So what we have here virtual reality, a new about screen, which kind of tells you lots of what build and what underneath and what branch you're downloading from, which is really handy. So what I'm going to do here is just use a lot of experimental builds. Down on the lower right, and just demo. We have some new stats, so you can actually see video memory. You still have the option to see scene statistics down on the bottom. So what we have here is now defaulted a new about screen, which kind of tells you 3D view, what build, what hash, and what branch you're downloading from, which is really also from a UI perspective like me who hitting F3 and searching for commands. Down on the lower right, not only we have some new stats, so you can actually see video memory, but also on the right, you'll see option to see scene statistics down on the bottom. But developers shift Control Alt A, right, which is not super memorable in your 3D view, but you can see, that'll allow you to kind of navigate all the way down. Which is also from a UI perspective, tutorials and things. Hitting F3 and searching for commands gives you not only the menu. Let me just show you, which I absolutely love. But also on the right, other UI features here. So the hotkey. What we have here is just like a really simple Shift Control Alt A, right? Which is not super memorable, like super low poly. Uses a that'll allow you mirror modifier to all the way down. Complete straight for writing tutorials and things where you're trying to teach people. That's great. And it's got a subdivision surface to try and let me just show you who here sees the problem with some other UI features here. So if you kind of look, what we have here is just like a really simple weird pinching going on. This where you think, super low poly modifiers up and down. Look at this mirror modifier to kind of complete the model. Everybody's been waiting for drag and drop ordering of modifiers for that's great. It's got a subdivision surface to try and smooth it out and add more love here. Sees the problem with Blender and Siggraph. So if you kind of look carefully at the heart, let's go ahead and you'll notice there's some weird pinching going on. Maybe some modeling. Oh gosh, okay, I gotta move these modifiers up and down. What we've got here is just kind of drag and drop with some textures. Everybody's been waiting for drag and drop ordering of modifiers for a really long time. Editing tools, which kind of help and game developers, but just everybody generally. So in the upper right corner. So let's go ahead and let's take a look in this upper menu here. Maybe some modeling. We have these two options. So kind of we've got here is connect face attributes and also textures applied. Keep connected. And what this lets us do UV editing modify the mesh in a 3D viewport. Game developers UV stretching, so everybody generally. So what you'll see here in the upper right corner is not in this menu here. But if you look in the lower right window menu here, we have these two prior versions of Blender that UV would be stretched. Connect face attributes and also to. But now we can just kind of what this lets us do as we modify the mesh in a 3D viewport, especially and it prevents UV stretching, so it'll automatically tile. So what you'll see here, grab one of these faces and we just kind of expand it. Look in the lower right window. Some other features. We're just gonna show versions of Blender that have been improvements to the Ocean modifier. So if you've never seen the Blender Ocean modifier, now this is I guess based on the same Ocean as we like simulation tool set that Houdini uses, but tileable textures. We have these foam and spray options. So the foam had come to us in a prior version of Blender. So you can some other features by hooking up an attribute node. There's been improvements to the Ocean modifier. So if you've never seen the Blender Ocean modifier, this is I guess based on the same actually mess around with the resolution simulation tool set that other portions of the UI Houdini uses. But what's new here, we have these foam and spray options. So the foam had come to us in a prior version of Blender. You can see that by hooking up an attribute node. What you can see is a spray map. So this can be used for like secondary simulations. See the foam. You can actually really mess around with the resolution. They give you the ability to invert it as well. But what's new here, and here's just an example spray file from the developer. You can see both the foam and both normal and inverted spray maps. So if we all right. So let's take a look at some of the cloth simulation stuff. Spray map. So this can be used for like brush was a fan favorite. Actually, in the really last version of Blender, they give you the ability to invert. What we have now is cloth filters. So and here's just an example, a mask from the developer. You can see this the foam and on this normal plane, the subdivided plane. We can use this cloth filter. So let's take a look at some of the strength here because simulation stuff. I think the default brush was a fan favorite. It tends to be actually in the last version of Blender. A little bit strong. And what we have, just grab the mouse and move it to the right. So you can actually do cloth mask straight within on this sculpting. You can go on this plane, the subdivided plane. We can use this cloth filter. We'll just turn down the strength here. All sorts of wacky effects for some reason. This is really handy if you just want to create like a quick tends to be blanket on a bed or curtains on a wall, and you don't want to go into the whole. Just grab the mouse and move it to the right system. You can actually do cloth. You can actually just simulate directly within the viewport now. Sculpting. You can go so once you have it where you want, back and forth. You can then grab some other tools, like in this case, get all sorts of wacky effects there. So this is really handy if you just want to create like a quick grab some blanket on a bed or brushes on a wall, and you don't want to go into the whole maybe simulator system. Brush. You can actually just simulate around regularly where you want it now. So once you have it where you want, Pablo Navarro is both an artist and a developer that's been enhancing these tools. He's been doing a really great job. So let's grab this cloth brush. Actually, grab some brushes, like maybe the kind of like. In the next version is ZBrush. Maybe the cloth brush. Let me show you another area. This is where you want kind of an example of how we might use the Pablo Navarro multi-resolution, both an artist and a developer. This isn't just a model. Enhancing these tools, he's been doing a really great job. Pillow here has this subdivision brush actually modifier on it. Ended up in ZBrush. Just to kind of make it a little higher poly than it is already, I'm going to go ahead and apply it. Let me show you another area. So this would be kind of representative of, let's say, kind of an example of how we might use the that comes from ZBrush multi-resolution modifier. So, and if we go into the modifier, it's just a model add a multi-resolution modifier. So for those that have seen Blender for a long time, you know this tool kind of went away while they redid. Just to kind of make it a little higher poly than it is already. I'm going to go ahead and apply it. Just turn on. And you'll see. So this would be kind of representative of, let's say, like a high poly mesh that comes from ZBrush. All right. And if we go to the modifiers, generate area, multi-resolution modifier, rebuild subdivisions. For those that have seen Blender for a long time, you know this tool kind of went away while they redid. Go up here, we can lower the subdivision level, and you can see Blender's automatically calculated lower subdivision levels for this mesh. And this is really handy because obviously you want to sculpt on a low resolution mesh. If you go down into the generate definitions, propagated rebuild subdivisions to higher levels. And look in the lower right, you see this two new levels built. Just to demonstrate that. If we go up here, we can lower the subdivision level. And you can see Blender's automatically grab brush, lower subdivision level, and then mesh. Let's just zoom in, and this is really handy because obviously you want to sculpt on a low resolution mesh, the high resolution mesh, have those deformation modifiers propagated, move the sculpt levels down to 0 to higher levels, and so we can push and pull it. You know, we would go ahead, bump up our rate, demonstrate that here. We would go ahead and we can push it and pull it around, kind of fumble around, finding the grab brush, make it move in, and then of course let's just zoom in, bump it back up. in resolution. So now this is super high resolution, super handy tool. Go to our modifier. We'll go ahead and really happy to get the multi-resolution modifier up. And this is just one of 3 sculpting workflows in Blender. Radius of our brush here. But it's just really good. Push it and pull it around. Okay. And so kind of make it demonstrating, and then of course some of the fluid, bump it back up in resolution. So in Blender, super handy tool. MantaFlow, really happy to get a multi-resolution modifier up. This is one of 3 sculpting workflows. So much more. Really great stuff. So some of the fluid. All right. So hopefully this is coming through. So, as you can see here, I just wanted to show off under cycles is the fluid engine in Blender. Optics is now an option, so much more fun RTX cards than previous versions. So that's just built into the cycles render. It uses new open VDB features. So you know what? We'll go ahead and we have CPU rendering happening here. So hopefully this is coming through. So start rendering here. As you can see here, I just wanted to show off in this particular cycles, you know, demo file, which is downloaded, is now an option for non-RTX cards. Is that we have a lot of that's just built into the cycles render samples. It's looking really noisy in the viewport. You know, so we'll just we'll go ahead and we have what we have is an option rendering happening here. We'll just go ahead and start rendering here. Jump back to the real-time EV render. So we have a lot of noise, and then we'll enable like 8 samples open image really noisy in the viewport, and go ahead and start that again. And everybody's seen denoise. At about 4 samples, just jump back to the real-time EV render in the viewport. Just for really excellent performance. We'll enable Intel's open image denoise and go ahead and start that again. Kind of viewport denoising. Everybody's seen denoising, and not only that, but you know, if we wanted to switch to GPU, let's go rather large EV Blender file example. At about 4 samples, you can actually choose really clear. Here. So if you have an RTX, just a really excellent NVIDIA card, this would be even faster. I do not have an RTX video card, kind of viewport. So this is actually and not only that slower, but you know, if we can see wanted to even at like GPU to switch this back to 3 samples. Going to be a little bit slower. You know, the Blender Foundation even at actually able to see to, or I think about 900% speed up, especially with really clear. So motion blur, awesome. So it went from performance enhancements to render a frame all the way down to 5 minutes viewport and for the render. So the Embry rendering, they had kind of Blender, you know, with all one of the test files. That's kind of the more extreme case. But in general, Foundation was rendering actually able to see much faster in this version of Blender. So about 900% speed up, especially with all right, motion blur. So it went from an hour. Let's go ahead to render a frame all the way down to 5 minutes. Scene inspection was introduced with the new Embry Blender for the first time in the last version. Now they had kind of mixed results kind of all the demo files. That's kind of more rendering. It's good for pre-visualization. In general, rendering there's only a limited number of HMDs supported. Those that support really exciting stuff. But that's a growing list. All right, so what that looks like. So in practice, let's go ahead and talk about VR. So scene inspection was introduced in Blender for the first time in the last version, but it allows for kind of we have this landmarks feature which allows rendering. It's good for kind of help the viewer navigate. There's only a limited number of HMDs supported. Those that support OpenXR, but that's a growing list. So what that looks like, the ability to show the VR camera. So what I'm doing now is test. I have my ArcViz HMD in my hand, and I'm actually moving it around. Not my model, but you can see we have this landmarks feature, which allows you between kind of help the viewer navigate spots to certain camera points, show the points throughout the scene, show the first-person perspective. So what this looks like, the ability to show the VR camera. So what I'm doing now is that's kind of exciting. I have my HMD in my hand. You can also moving it around, show the landmarks. So these 3 cameras have been marked as landmarks. You can actually move. And this version of Blender just enhances its landmarks feature, landmark spots, to be a lot more robust. So show position, rotation, all of that's what this looks like in Blender in the landmark HMD. you're able to, from wherever the viewer's perspective is, you can also show the landmarks. So these 3 cameras, and you can actually just take a camera. And this version of Blender just kind of enhances this landmarks feature. So you have kind of to be a lot landmark robot scene camera, your landmark position, rotation, with all of that's maintained. I think everybody should know. In the landmark now, you're able to, from wherever the viewer's perspective is. Hopefully that was useful. And you can that's the kind of Blender 2.90 landmark overview straight within. And so you have kind of these I think at this landmark in the interest of time landmark. And I'm just going to follow up with a couple of links that I think everybody should. Or rather, you know, let's just field questions by text. In the interest of time, I'm going to turn things over. Hopefully that was useful to Barnstorm. That's the kind of Blender 2.90 overview.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And all right, you bet. Let me stop sharing. I think at this point, in the interest of time, Sunil, do you have any questions?
All right, everyone. Hi,
or rather,
I'm Michael Ing, and I am a CG artist at Barnstorm VFX. I've been there for about 3 years. A buddy of mine, Chris Parks, that I work with, is also in the room. He's going to be showing off some,
you guys ready to present?
Just a sounds good. Kind of an example of what our workflow is. We do not use Blender exclusively. I'd like to be very clear about that before we play our reel.
It's all yours.
These days, we're doing a lot of our scene work. I'm Michael Ing, and I am a CG artist at Barnstorm VFX. I've been there for about 3 years. A lot more simulation. A buddy of mine, Chris Parks, that I work with, is also in the room. He's going to be showing off sort of a holistic place, just put everything together. Kind of an example of what our workflow is. We do not use Blender exclusively. I'd like to be very clear about that before we play our reel. These days, we're doing a lot of our scene work in Houdini, and we're rendering with Arnold. This is just a decision because we've started to take on a lot more simulation unwrapping. Many sim artists. And Chris is going to demonstrate animation as well. It became sort of a holistic animation we do in our studio. That being said, we have we get everything we need and tools we want. We have Houdini. It's still and our entire bulk of the initial work is done in Blender. I'm gonna shut up for a minute and play a reel for you. This is a reel of the work we did for Man in the High Castle Season 4 unwrapping. And Chris is going to demonstrate animation as well. The animation we do in our studio, we start in Blender, and we get everything we need. And when we port it to Houdini, it's still a bulk of the initial work is done in Blender. I'm gonna shut up for a minute and play a reel for you. This is a reel of the work we did for Man in the High Castle Season 4. And share my screen. This. as I mentioned before, like we're not doing everything in Blender. I don't want to misrepresent ourselves, but we use Blender. I mean, very extensively. That train derailment sequence. I believe Chris is going to talk about that. He handled the animation, the initial animation for the actual movement of the cars, which were then passed downstream to sim artists. I did a lot of the camera layout on some of those shots. As I mentioned before, like working on layout, and we're not doing everything in Blender. I don't want to misrepresent ourselves, but really know exactly how layout works. I mean, very extensively. That camera derailment sequence. I believe Chris even talked about that. Then we have to align the animation, the initial animation for the actual movement of the cars, which were then passed downstream to sim artists. Number one favorite. I did a lot of the camera layout on some of those shots. We had a team of about they don't have people working on layout, and I was so easy involved in that. And just drop your cursor anywhere in your scene and use that. Really know exactly how layout works. We'll have like a 3D camera track and proxy off by a millimeter. If only I could. Then we have to align that one random item. That's one of the great things about Blender. I set it and get your camera lined up. My absolute number one. It's also great for building models. I know the artists who worked on that train, they don't have it in any other package. I don't know why. It's so easy. You can track, drop your cursor anywhere in your scene that we lay down. Orbit point. And when you're aligning off, we actually there's a lifesaver. Great. My perspective just off by a millimeter. If only I could rotate add on around that one random item that's 100 feet this way. And you can snap it and set it. Locate any place in the world. And it's also great for building models. Satellite terrain data. Artists who worked on that train, if there's roads or anything, like for the DC shot, the track was of course a Blender spline that we laid down. We used OSM to start things off. We actually what the streets in Washington DC look like. And use that to start building out our set. You can get for Blender the OSM derailment street map was filmed in this you can just area of Vancouver, locate any place in the world, British Columbia, it will provide satellite Valley, terrain data. And so we just downloaded got the terrain of that, and we were able to start laying out our scenes against the photography. Actually did the layout mountain that shot. Okay, now we know where we are. OSM just to get a map of what the streets in Washington DC look like. The actual geometry to start building out our set. Eventually passed downstream train derailment sim that was filmed in this I actually area of Vancouver terrain for that. Columbia. Simple proxies, but I had like a layer of dirt, and so we just downloaded got the terrain of that, and we were able to start laying out our scenes against the photography with the terrain. That mountain. That's okay. Now we know where we are. A simulation. We laid the tracks with splines in Blender. So the actual geometry part of our ground that is eventually passed downstream to Houdini. I was working on it last night. I actually and it's just created the terrain for that. I was modeling simple proxies, but I had like a layer of dirt and then a shrink wrap modifier, snow, and do some previous added boulders and whatnot. Just that geometry that would collide with the terrain and eventually. But yeah, it's definitely a simulation of valuable tool in our pipeline and debris. You know, for me, Blender is a major part of our pipeline. We use it. I mean, I wouldn't be in it last night. Blender, it was a project for work, which is just it's our go-to for modeling. It got me into unwrapping, and I love Blender, and I love the community. I love we do people in this room. Chris is going to talk about that. Animation. Sterling, thank you for inviting us. And but yeah, it's definitely. I'm going to pass the tool in our pipeline and let Chris talk. I love it for my personal projects. It's I wouldn't be in 3D without Blender. It was free, which is the perfect price. And it got me into this. Using I love Blender, and I love the community. I love we had a pretty cool workflow. David and Sterling, thank you for inviting us. And, because we work in TV, I'm gonna pass the. There's sort of a stress to do things quick, right? And Michael knows this about me. Everything that I do, I'm a very frustrated person when like there isn't like the perfect optimized we were using Blender for this. So we had a pretty cool workflow. So it was important when we were working because on we worked train crash sequence that there's sort of a stress to do things quick, the ideas and go pretty quick. Michael knows this about me. Everything that I do, I'm a very frustrated person when like there isn't like the full animation optimized workflow. And so one of the things that we were doing, I think, so it was important when we were working on this train crash sequence, alpha or beta, we could previs out the ideas and go pretty quickly from previs to just switch things to the full animation pass. Kind of just do that right now. Renders of the scene we were working on. Okay, and so yeah, this whole train share. This is sharing, right?
that reel again and kind of go so through, obviously so obviously the train certain shots off in the train sequence right here. I wouldn't say obviously, but it's obvious to me, Michael. But we did a lot of this stuff actually in Houdini. Okay. But what's funny about this whole train crash is the motion of the actual train. So obviously, so obviously was based off of a train a rigid body sim that I did in like in an hour. I wouldn't say obviously, but it's obvious to me, Michael. But we did a lot of this stuff actually in a rigid body sim. But what's funny about this actual train crash is the motion of the actual train crashing through the environment a couple of years was based off of I enjoy my a rigid body sim, but like if I had to do this in my I'm not sure how so like it moving through there's a really nice ease to like a rigid body sim and to just I generating have a background in Maya, but precise things in Blender. And so this scene was actually like I enjoy Maya to a degree. I had like if I had to do this on a curve modifier, I'm not sure how this train would have been for me. There's a really nice ease to like right here actually. I actually baked in all the keyframes just going along the track. Quick, and then everything after that was precise things rigid body in Blender. And so right here actually I actually baked in all the keyframes generate like a really cool dynamic and then everything after that was a simple rigid body train simulation of it bouncing around the ground. Particularly the what's really good about that is this spin right there. Go after that and kind of massage it. And that would be a really hard thing to come up with animating, right? But if you can just sort of quickly generate like a really cool ideas, dynamic. I did this previously, train maybe like careening off of 2